What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on first take, they're going to be talking about how even golf has been affected by the coronavirus because the Masters has been postponed. So let's see what they have to say about that.
So now let's bring in ESPN senior golf writer Bob Harig to give us a little insight on that. Bobby, there?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. What's your reaction to all this?
Yeah, well, obviously a lot of stuff going on here this morning. Players' Championship has been canceled, and now the Masters is being postponed. And the initial reaction is this is a good move. If they were going to play it in a month's time, they were looking at having no spectators. It would be impossible to think of playing the Masters without spectators out there. Imagine Tiger winning his 15th major and 5th Masters last year and having nobody there.
So actually, you can look at this two ways. So it kind of might be ideal conditions for a golfer to have no fans there, because that means no distractions, nobody talking, nothing of that nature. Because it is one sport where you really need to have absolute concentration, it will be golf. I'm not saying other sports don't need that, but especially in golf, you need less distractions and nobody talking. But on the other hand, you definitely want to have all those fans there supporting the game and having the whole hoopla of a big tournament and, just being a professional golf player and having thousands of people come to see you. So I can see how it works both ways. So let's continue.
What made that so compelling, and of course makes any Masters compelling, is all the fans that are out there and the noise and the roars. And so it looks like they're trying to buy themselves a little bit of time. They did not say when they're looking at playing it. There's a lot to work through there with the PGA Tour schedule and obviously the agronomics of Augusta National. It wouldn't really work there in June. It could work in May. It could work in the fall also. So lots to consider, but now that decision has been made, and now this is 5 straight golf tournaments on the PGA Tour that are either going to be delayed or canceled.
Yeah, so it would be very interesting to see if they can pull off one of these tournaments with no fans. Like I said, it's probably could be ideal conditions if there's no fans there. Like I said, there's no distractions, there's no noise, there's nothing. So if they can pull that off, if that's what you want, then it'd be interesting to see what would happen if they actually did have a tournament with no fans there. So let's continue.
It does seem, though, that golf, as Greeny, you said, boxing, for example, it could be contested in a gym between 2 people. Those are the kind of sports that need maybe a dozen tests if someone can get their hands on 24 tests. We saw Utah Jazz, I think, 58 tests, 53 tests, something like that. Are the tests even available to even something like the PGA Tour? Can they even get their hands on tests if they wanted to test and eliminate the crowds?
That's a great question because, Roy McIlroy brought that up yesterday after they did play the first round here at the Players' Championship, and he came right out and said they need to test all the players and all the caddies. And obviously, we're in this tournament there was 144 players. There's far more players than that on the PGA Tour and in professional golf. Then you throw in the caddies. What about the scoring officials, the rules officials? Shouldn't all those people be tested? It's a monumental task. Jay Monahan, the tour commissioner, we spoke to him earlier this morning. He couldn't even answer if any of his players have been tested, and certainly didn't know if any of them have tested positive. So this is why I think they're all giving themselves some space right now. There's so much we don't know, so much they don't know, and as so many risks associated, even with an outdoor sport like golf.
Bob. So hold on, are they asking if they have access to test for the coronavirus for the golfers, for the caddies, for all those guys that are involved in the whole process? How is that even a thing? I mean, how much money is made in golf? Golf is probably couple billion dollars a year type organization, and they're talking like they might not have access to the testing. I mean, that doesn't make any type of sense. Each tournament brings in hundreds of millions of dollars. You trying to tell me you guys can't spare maybe $1 million to get the top-notch testing so you can have the players back out there golfing again, so you get fans, get all the attention back to it? So I don't understand how that would be a thing of can they get testing? It doesn't make sense. If a normal person can go to the hospital or to wherever and get a test, I'm pretty sure a $1 billion a year organization should be able to get their golfers tested. So I don't know. Let's continue.
Amongst the players that you've talked to, did they want to play? Did they, for example, want to continue playing this weekend without spectators?
I think it was mixed, Mike. Rory felt yesterday that it was a good decision to go on the way they were going, but he also felt like, look, it's changing by the hour, and if they decide to cancel it, they'd be okay with it. I mean, what we would have seen out here today, and it's beautiful weather. I mean, it's a shame. I mean, this pristine golf course with nobody on it. But what we would have seen is sort of what we might see at home playing golf amongst ourselves. A group of guys, a couple of people out there in the fairway, no interaction, no fans. I think there was this sense that in golf that they could maybe pull this off. But then you bring into it, you still got to have some volunteers. You've still got to have scores. You still got to have people on site to coordinate all these things. A lot of these tournaments, those types of people are older. They're retired. They're the ones that we're hearing are susceptible to this virus. So, ultimately, I think they took a step back and realized that these things are tough. And as far as the Masters is concerned, you've got international players who are eligible. What if they can't get back over here? So many things to consider. But I think from a golf level, they were sort of enjoying the idea of, okay, we can play golf with no spectators. Yeah. It'll be different. And unfortunately, it's not going to happen.
That's exactly.
So again, I think that can happen because that might be ideal situation for a golfer. And like I said, it doesn't really. I mean, how much money is made in golf? There has to be $1 billion a year type organization to be dealing with professional golf. And you're trying to tell me they can't find people? They can't find caddies. They can't find volunteers to set things up and help, just like it was a normal tournament, except we just don't have fans there. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I could probably go to a local event and find people that are volunteers with no problem. But then you have a large tournament in the world, and you're scrambling and trying to think, well, how are we going to get volunteers? How are we going to have caddies? How are we going to have all this testing? There's a lot of money in golf. Things should be able to be getting done. That's all I'm going to say. And there should be a way to get things done with all the amount of money that's made in golf. So I don't know. Let's continue.
Exactly where I was going, because obviously in the sport of basketball, I mean, that the players feed off the crowd in a tremendous fashion. The notion of playing without crowds in attendance is something that's very daunting to them. I knew that from Jump Street. I'm not an avid golf follower. I'm just a spectator, but I will ask you this question. Do you see a difference in golfers in terms of how they play around and in front of a crowd compared to if they were playing by themselves? Would there be a drastic difference in their performance in your estimation because a crowd isn't there? I'm just asking as a pure novice.
Sure. Well, it's funny because there are some guys that don't play in front of big crowds every week. We see the name players who are on TV all the time and attract the big galleries. And I think for them, it would be a difference. And it's an adrenaline rush. At this place here, anybody who knows the TPC Sawgrass, walking from the 16th green to the 17th tee, that is one of the epic walks in golf. It is loud, boisterous. They're getting yelled at, screamed at, and you're coming to that island hole trying to hit that shot 130 yards over water. It's daunting with all that noise. And of course at Augusta, the roars down at Amen Corner, that that you could hear the sounds last year when Francisco Molinari and Brooks Koepka hit their balls in the water at Rays Creek at 12. I mean, that noise reverberated up the hill back to the clubhouse. It is part of the competition. It's what makes it so hard. If it's very quiet out there, maybe those shots are easier for those guys. So it does make a difference. At the Masters, there's no getting away with it. Obviously, there's crowds on every hole, and that's part of the test. I think is to be able to handle your nerves in front of all those people that you're not used to.
When will the PGA reevaluate a new date?
Yeah, as far as the Masters is concerned, that's in conjunction with the PGA Tour, and they have events scheduled throughout the year. So this is not easy. Like if they decide they wanted to try to play in May, well, do they displace another tournament? Do they play it opposite it? Same within the fall. The FedEx Cup schedule ends at the end of August, but then the new schedule resumes in early September, and then.
Yeah, so I'm thinking if there's any organization or any sport that could deal with having no fans, I think it could be golf. And I think they should try that out. The smallest tournament that would be coming up, which is still huge, they should try and do it without a crowd there. just to see what would happen. And like I said, there's ideal conditions for the golfer. No distractions. It don't really, they don't really play a factor, in the game. Like I said, you don't want that many distractions. So I think they could probably pull that off if they tried it in golf. So let's continue.
You've got the Ryder Cup at the end of September, so where do you fit it in? So as far as the Masters is concerned, they're going to have to work with the Tour to figure this out. As far as the Tour's own events, they were looking at it as if the next event on the schedule, which is Hilton Head the week after the Masters, would be next up. Of course, it's quite possible that will have to be canceled or postponed too.
Yeah, so again, I think they can probably pull this off in golf. Like I said, the fans aren't there, making all these type of noises for individual players to knock them off their game like they do in basketball or in football, where they could throw snowballs, or like I said, in basketball, they have behind the rim, they have these little squigglies that they shake back and forth to try and distract the person throwing a free throw. It's not like that in golf necessarily. So I think if there's any sport that they can't pull that off, it would be golf. And I think they should at least try one tournament to see how that works out. So let's continue.
It's going to be, I think, a day-by-day, week-by-week thing. They've got a lot to work through. The PGA Championship is the next major on the schedule in mid-May. That is scheduled for San Francisco, where there's a lot of virus issues.